All right, Jason, thanks so much for being with me today and sharing a little bit about your experience working with me. I want to just take a moment to introduce you, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Sure, sure. So Jason Tigano is a business owner out of the Pittsburgh area and the owner of Business Community Partners. I know that you've been working on really taking this whole business to another level, and that's when we started working together. So just wanted to touch base with you briefly today.
Yeah, thank you both for having me. Uh, like she said, my name's Jason Tigano. I'm the owner of Responsive Community Partners. I'm a consultant that provides strategic and technical capacity to nonprofits and local municipalities. I met Bofta probably about 2 years ago now. She was the keynote speaker for the Martin Luther King Jr. Awards, which is a honorary celebration of the Coro Center at Pittsburgh. I found her to be very engaging and dynamic. And afterwards, I just went up and spoke to her a little bit about me starting my own business and really trying to understand how better to communicate with my clients, my partners, and the communities I work in.
And what prompted you to really reach out that next step for coaching one-on-one?
Um, just really my experience in talking to you at the ceremony. You were really engaged. You seemed authentic in asking questions about what I was doing. You seemed interested in learning more, and frankly, you offered to help. And I needed help, so it sort of worked out that I followed up with that. Just trying to be proactive as an entrepreneur and someone that was starting my business. Uh, a lot of the things that you said really resonated with me in a real way that I don't think other media consultants or other communications consultants that I've worked with in the past connected with. And so we started working together just around concepts, scripting my idea, getting a narrative down on paper, really thinking through more than just an elevator pitch, but some real content and how to frame that. It was all really helpful thinking about the different groups that I meet with and how those frames change throughout that. And candidly, I just appreciated the time and the level of detail that I think that you took with me, really understanding what I was trying to do with my business model, how I really wanted to engage with my clients, and really working with me through that process, not only on real script and print materials, but even just simply dialogues and conversations, how I talk to different clients about, oh, if this happens, think about that. It was also helpful.
Right. So much of what we talked about, and thank you for your kind words, really stems from just communication, whether it's on print or whether it's in person and having those executive and high level meetings and you're talking to potential investors. Tell me where you were stuck most clearly. Where were you stuck then, and where are you now after we worked together?
Um, I think for me, I was stuck in a space of, I was thinking of my jargon over professionalized. And so when I was trying to write my business plan and my model and have presentation documents for clients, um, it was too much into the weeds of the day to day that I do. And what you really helped me do is um, reposition my communication, really thinking through my audience better and really teasing out my ideas in a way that my audience could understand more naturally from their communication point of view and where they're coming from, as opposed to I'm sitting down with another peer or expert in my field who gets everything I'm talking about in that really specialized, jargony way that I think all of our worlds get into. Um, and that ultimately really helped because early on in it, I really knew I had a great idea, but I felt like I was just not getting the response I was expecting to get. Um, and working with you and refining it, and just even the tips that you left me with when you're doing these things, think about this, think about that. When you're editing your work, think about how, here's a different way to look at editing some documents as you're rewriting this. Um, I've really been able to better communicate with partners and with funders, especially to a point that um, they're understanding the work that I'm trying to do, and it's a much more digestible model. My documents are more easily understandable, and that's really helped in overall just my ability to get more partners, line up more supporters, build a bigger network. People can actually understand what I'm trying to accomplish. And I think that wasn't so clear early on, unless you lived in my head, so to speak.
Right, right. No, that's awesome. And I'm glad to hear that you saw those results. Speaking of that, what were some of the tangible results that you saw? So when we worked together, I know that you were talking to some investors and partners, but nothing had really come to fruition yet. Where are you now, months later?
So right now we have lined up a number of different funding sources. Grant rounds are coming up for the spring in the 2020 new year. We've been meeting with our foundation and government partners at the local and state level, and they're beginning to really try to find ways to partner with us, looking at new sources of funds that may not have been available in the past, or strategically looking at reprogramming existing funding streams to better match the model that we're producing. So they're actually responding to the request that we've put in. Unfortunately, folks don't make commitments ahead of funding streams and those award announcements, but the idea that they're making these overtures to us, they're requesting us to apply and sort of getting creative with our application is really exciting. And it shows that I think that there's going to be a lot of investment coming into our communities to really work on affordable housing.
And nothing moves fast when you're talking about millions of dollars usually.
No, no, of course not.
And I know
It always takes
that's the
time.
bucket you're in. So it's a good
Yes,
bucket to be in, is to be
yes,
discussing things that are of that level. So
yes,
no, not talking about small deals. So
no,
the positioning needs to be so clear, especially at that level when you are talking to people who are really, really deliberating now whether to invest millions of dollars into a project that's relatively new, correct?
yes. And they are multi-year funding requests. So it further complicates this, that we need to have our message tight. We need to have our plan tight and our product tight, because we're looking for multi-million-dollar investments for multi-years. That does, to your point, just take a lot of work to line up. And so the fact that we're at these tables and having these discussions is a really exciting time.
Do you think you would be at this point if we hadn't really made digestible material, digestible conversations, digestible, compelling introductions and messaging?
No, I can't say that we would. I think that candidly for me, I would probably still be sputtering in my jargon world of, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? I'm just going to keep telling you the same thing. But I think your ability to really help me reframe and understand audience and messaging, and how that sort of changes based on, am I talking to a funder from Harrisburg as opposed to a funder from the city, as opposed to a community resident, and how does that messaging need to appeal to them from their seat, as opposed to what I understand the message to be from my point of view in my seat. And so I think the ability to really understand diversified messaging was really important for me, and really being able to more specifically craft those messages to my particular audience, and not just a broad swath of audience.
Right. No, totally get it. And I'm glad that it's stuck with you, because now you can use this information that we've worked together on for years to come. You can work on diversified messaging. You know what it is. I'm big on, yes, and consulting, actually helping someone with it, but also teaching at the same time. And that's just my approach, is so people can learn and continue to learn and implement, right? And implement for
Yes.
years to come. So real quick before we wrap up, what surprised you the most about working with me? Because you did not know me personally.
No, no. Honestly, how authentic and accessible you are. Even now, you're following up with me. You check in with me. Hey, how's it going? I just want to make sure things are going well. I feel like you're top class world consultant,
Thank
and
you.
you're still checking in with me. Little old me in Pittsburgh. And so I feel like you're someone that, once you're a client to stay. and you always make yourself available. And even if I have a quick email, you can turn something around and you're responsive to me. And it's not, I have to continue to always pay you top dollar to make sure that you respond to me, but rather you're looking for true partnerships and true commitments. And where there are those opportunities, then we continue to work together. But even when you haven't been, or I haven't been a client, you've been responsive. And I find that hard in my own city, let alone for someone that is traveling all over, doing all sorts of different speaking engagements and all sorts of things. You still make yourself available to the little client that
You're
you
not
might
little.
really
I'm gonna
believe
take
it.
that out of you.
Well,
You're
yeah,
not a little client. You
I'm
got
not
$1 million
international.
deals on the table.
I'm not super fancy in that way.
No, not at all. So what would you say to someone who's on the fence about working with me?
You're not going to get a better person to work with. I think if you're looking for someone that is really committed to her craft, really committed to making sure that her partners are achieving their goals and getting what they really need, I think that you're a fabulous person to work with. And I couldn't recommend you highly enough.
Thank you so much, Jason. I
Yeah.
appreciate that sincerely from the bottom of my heart. And I'm excited for you and the conversations you're having and a multi-year success, right? As
Thank you.
you move forward. So thank you so much for your time today. I know you're busy, so I'm going to let you go, but I do appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bofta. And I'll be working with you again soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.